Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
The Mets are making moves, and we're finally seeing some actual traction in what's been a frustratingly quiet offseason for David Stearns and the front office. We've got multiple reports dropping about potential targets, and honestly, some of these make a ton of sense for where this roster stands right now. Let's start with the biggest news, because this one actually matters. The Athletic is reporting that Freddie Peralta trade talks are about to heat up in a serious way. Both New York teams are involved, along with the Dodgers, Braves, and Red Sox. Some smaller market clubs are kicking the tires too, since Peralta only makes $8 million next season, which is incredibly affordable for what he brings to the table. But here's the catch that everyone needs to understand. He's a free agent after next year, which completely changes the calculus on what you're willing to give up in a trade. Peralta put up absolutely filthy numbers last season with Milwaukee. 204 strikeouts across 176 innings with a 2.70 ERA and 17 wins. Those aren't just solid numbers. Those are legitimate ace numbers. When you watch him pitch, there's no question about his stuff. His fastball sits in the mid-90s with late life. His changeup is devastating against righties, and his slider is one of the nastiest breaking balls in baseball. Hitters know what's coming and still can't touch it half the time. That's elite-level pitching. The question for the Mets is whether it makes sense to give up prospects for one guaranteed year of Freddie Peralta when they could just spend money in free agency instead. Steve Cohen owns this team, which means money shouldn't be an object. Why trade away future assets when you can just outbid everyone for whatever pitcher you want? It's a fair point, and one that plenty of Mets fans are making right now. But here's the counter-argument that actually holds weight. Look at who's available in free agency for starting pitching. Framber Valdez is out there, but he's going to cost serious money for a guy who's really more of a number 3 starter than an ace. Ranger Suarez has legitimate injury concerns, even though his numbers look good on paper. Jack Flaherty has been inconsistent throughout his career. Nick Pivetta is a back-end rotation arm at best. Michael Lorenzen is a swingman. Where exactly is the ace-level talent in this free agent class? It doesn't exist. The best available starter is probably Valdez, and even that's debatable, depending on what you value. Peralta gives you something you literally cannot get anywhere else right now. A proven ace who's entering his prime years with electric stuff and a track record of staying healthy. Yeah, you only get him for 1 year guaranteed, but that 1 year might be the difference between competing for a division title or finishing third behind the Phillies and Braves. And let's be real about something else here. If Peralta comes to New York and pitches well, the Mets have the resources to extend him before he hits free agency. They can make him an offer during the season that blows away anything Milwaukee ever could have given him. Having him under contract for that year gives them exclusive negotiating rights to work out an extension. That matters. The prospect cost is obviously a major consideration, but it's not like the Mets would be giving up their crown jewels for a 1 year rental. Jet Williams and Carson Benj are completely off the table for this type of deal. Those guys are untouchable unless you're talking about trading for someone like Corbin Burns with multiple years of control. For Peralta, you're probably looking at someone like Jonah Tong or Brandon Sproat as the headliner, maybe a second top 15 prospect, and potentially a major league ready bat to balance things out. That's not cheap, but it's also not devastating to the farm system. The Brewers keep going back and forth on whether they actually want to move Peralta, which makes the market tough to read. They're not a team that typically tears things down completely. They retool and stay competitive, which means they might want major league talent coming back rather than pure prospects. That could actually work in the Mets' favor since they have guys like Brett Beatty, who still has value around the league even if he's blocked in New York. You package Beatty with a pitching prospect and maybe a lower-level lottery ticket, and suddenly you've got a deal that makes sense for both sides. Here's why Peralta specifically makes sense for the Mets, beyond just the numbers. This rotation right now is built on a lot of hope and potential. Kodai Senga is great when healthy, but that's been a massive if throughout his career. David Peterson looked like an all-star for the first half of last season, then completely fell apart. Sean Manaea is a veteran innings eater, but asking him to be your number 2 is probably pushing it. Clay Holmes is moving from the bullpen to starting, which is always a question mark no matter how good the stuff is. And then you've got Nolan McLean, who looks absolutely legit, but it's still a small sample size. That's a lot of variables and unknowns. Peralta removes one of those unknowns immediately. You plug him into the top of the rotation alongside McLean, and suddenly you got two guys you can count on to give you ace-level production. Everything else falls into place behind them. Senga becomes your 3 when he's healthy. Peterson or Manea slide into the 4 spot. You've got depth with Holmes and Paul Blackburn and the young arms fighting for the 5th starter role. That's a completely different looking rotation than what exists right now. The other piece of news that's gaining traction among Mets fans is the idea of signing Eugenio Suarez. There hasn't been a ton of official reporting linking the Mets to him, but the fit makes so much sense that people are starting to connect the dots. Suarez is a right-handed power bat who can play third base and first base, but is really best suited as a DH at this stage of his career. The Mets need exactly that type of player. Suarez crushed 49 home runs between Arizona and Seattle last season. 49 home runs. The man can absolutely obliterate baseballs when he connects. His batting average was only .228, and he strikes out a ton, but who cares when you're hitting the ball over the fence that often? His OPS was .824, which is legitimately good production, and his 3.6 WAR shows he was a valuable player even with the contact issues. The market for Suarez has been weirdly quiet, which means the Mets could probably get him on a reasonable deal. Projections have him around $15 million per year, but given how slow things have moved, he might take less on a 2 or 3 year contract. For a team with the Mets' resources, that's basically pocket change for the kind of production he provides. You're talking about a proven middle-of-the-order bat who can protect guys like Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo in the lineup. The fit makes even more sense when you think about the roster construction. Brett Baty has third base locked down, and while Mark Vientos had a breakout year last season, his defense at third is shaky at best. Pete Alonso is likely playing first base. That leaves DH wide open, and Suarez is perfect for that role. He can still play the field when you need to give someone a day off. But his primary job is to hit and hit. He does. His defense has declined to the point where you don't really want him out there every day anyway, so keeping him at DH maximizes his value while minimizing his weaknesses. The power numbers speak for themselves, but the underlying metrics back up that he's genuinely dangerous when he's locked in. His hard hit rate was in the 87th percentile last season. His barrel percentage was elite. When he makes contact, it's usually loud contact. The strikeouts are concerning, but it's not like he's swinging and missing at everything. He's a disciplined hitter who knows his approach and sticks to it. He's hunting fastballs to drive, and when pitchers make mistakes, he doesn't miss. Adding Suarez gives the Mets a legitimate right-handed power threat, which is something they desperately need. Look at the lineup as currently constructed. Lindor and Nimmo are lefties. Vientos is a righty, but he's more of a line drive hitter than a true power guy. The outfield is mostly left-handed, with Starling Marte being the exception. You need balance, and Suarez provides that balance while also providing thump in the middle of the order. And the concerns about his second half struggles with Seattle are valid, but context matters. He was dealing with some nagging injuries down the stretch, and the Mariners as a team completely collapsed offensively. It wasn't just Suarez struggling, it was literally everyone in that lineup. Put him in a better hitting environment with better protection in the lineup, and there's no reason to think he can't produce at the level he showed in Arizona. So here's where the Mets actually stand right now. They need starting pitching, and they need right-handed power. Freddie Peralta addresses the pitching need in a major way by giving them a frontline starter they can count on. Eugenio Suarez addresses the lineup need by providing legitimate right-handed thump and protection for their best hitters. Both moves make sense individually, and they make even more sense together because they address the two biggest holes on the roster. The prospect cost for Peralta is something to consider, but it's not prohibitive. You're not gutting the farm system for 1 year of a pitcher. You're making a calculated move to acquire someone who makes you significantly better right now while still preserving your top-tier prospects for future moves. And if Peralta pitches well, you've got the whole season to work on an extension that keeps him in New York long term. Suarez is even easier because there's no prospect cost at all. It's just money, and the Mets have plenty of that. You're talking about a guy who hit 49 home runs and will probably sign for something in the neighborhood of 2 years and $30 million. That's a no-brainer move for a team trying to compete for championships. The downside risk is minimal and the upside is huge. David Stearns has been quiet this offseason, which has frustrated a lot of Mets fans who are used to Steve Cohen throwing money around. But quiet doesn't mean inactive. These reports about Peralta and the buzz around Suarez suggest things are happening behind the scenes. Moves are coming, and when they do happen, they could reshape this roster in a significant way. The pieces are there to make this team a legitimate contender. Now it's just about Stearns pulling the trigger and making it happen before